Hi everybody, it's Kimberly here. Welcome to Tuesday's Transformational Tip. So today I wanted to ask you a question. Do you think that all limitations, all emotional blockages are bad? And I asked that question because I wanted to share something that happened to me yesterday that was very powerful. And you know, I'm all about being vulnerable and giving you as much of my journey as I can, or much of my perspective through that transformational journey, through the spiritual journey to peace, whatever way you want to look at that journey. So yesterday, I had this feeling that there was something, something related to the triangle between health, fitness, and food. And so I could just feel this little thing in the back of my mind, in the back of my heart, saying something's there, something's there. I could feel it coming intuitively for a couple of days. So when everyone left the house yesterday, I had a little 2-hour break and I thought, I'm gonna work on that now. As soon as I sat, and I used tapping, you guys know if you've been following me for a while, I use meditation, I use breathing techniques, very specific breathing techniques, and I also use tapping for all of my healing stuff, and I go with it intuitively, also depending on where I am. So yesterday I was alone, I was here in my house, and so it was tapping. So I started tapping, and right away, when I was thinking about, I just focused on the triangle of fitness, health, and food, fitness, health, and food. And right away I had this overwhelming anger that started coming up, and I just went with it. And sometimes it doesn't make sense, like, wow, what does that have to do with this? I don't judge it. I just let whatever's there come up. I got really angry, and all the word that started coming to me was, you lied, you lied, you lied, you lied. And I felt betrayal, and it was anger and sadness and that pain of betrayal. And I just went with it, I went with it, I went with it. And then I had this memory flash in front of the screen of my mind. A memory from 10 years ago. 10 years ago, which I had dealt with, so I thought, about 7 years ago. I guess I dealt with a layer of it. One layer of it that made everything doable for me for the last 7 years. And the story is someone very close to my life. I won't say who, just for their privacy. I mean, I'm vulnerable, but I'm not sure they want their privacy. They want everyone knowing their stuff. So anyways, someone really close to me who had kind of done something while I was away, but thinking that it was no big deal. And now that I look back at it, it was very, very important to me, especially back 10 years ago. It was so important to me. It was back when we just started building a family. And so this person knew kind of that was a big deal for me, but not to the extent that I felt about it. And so the first layer of healing I did on that made me realize, okay, so not everyone thinks the same way, and sometimes something that's a really big deal for me is not for someone else. And so we're not perfect, and life is busy. And do we always have that ability to be able to stop and really think about every single action? No, we don't. And so this is the danger of putting people on a pedestal. It's a far, far fall. And so I realized I had been doing that a little bit. And so that's where I came into the part where I could live it for the last 7 years. But I didn't realize, in all the work I do, in all of the healing work I do, and all the meditation I do, and all the tapping I do, and all the reading I do, and all the introspection and the creative work that comes from this whole transformation that I've been through, and this journey to peace and my highest potential and my calling, and whatever you want to call it, I couldn't see it. I could not see it. Now, I talk about this video as in, is it a bad thing? I know that a lot of us think that if I only could get rid of this, then everything would be different. And yes, I think that if this had all been dealt with 10 years, even 7 years ago, I would not have gone down the rabbit hole of health, the rabbit hole of fitness, and the rabbit hole of food. I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't have done as much transformational work that I have. I wouldn't have certain financial things in place that I have. So my point is, although we are desperately trying on this journey to save ourselves, to get ahead, to get it done, we think that because, I think anyway, and I think a lot of you can relate to what I'm saying, we want to get there and get it done. Like, because I am doing the work, because I am putting in the effort, it must be good, and I must know, because I'm doing the work, it means that it must happen, or it should happen. I know that we don't think that kind of consciously, but inside, it's almost like we feel like we're doing so much of this work, it must be. And I catch myself even now thinking about it. But what I learned after the healing that I went through yesterday, and just to give you a little bit of insight, the healing took me 2 to 3 hours to get through, going back and forth to it, going to do something, coming back to it, going to do something, writing, coming back to it. And then I stayed up a little bit later than I normally do last night just to reflect on it. And I've been reflecting on it all morning. And it's just so mind-blowing to me how we ultimately know better. Like deep, deep, deep within, we know divinely, divine timing of how the path needs to unfold for our highest potential ultimately, because we know our intention. Our intention is peace. Our intention is the greatest good of all. Our intention is to live our highest potential and to be of service to humanity, to the world. The same intent, it's very typical for the spiritual seeker, for the person on that transformational journey to better ourselves. We kind of have the same similar goals. And so I think ultimately, deep within, we know the journey. We know that things have to take a certain time. And I think that it was a great lesson for me that although I think that that should have been healed 7 years ago, because I went through different layers of that healing yesterday. And one of the layers is this regret that I have wasted the last 7 years with this resentment, tight resentment in my body, in my system. But after I went through the layers of healing, it's just a layer of that healing. We go through the different layers of like the sadness, and then the grief, and then the anger. There's a process to it. And so after I got through that layer, I kind of just like was in awe, total awe of, wow, I thought that should have been healed 7 years ago, and none of the last 7 years would have had to happen of the self-discovery. But then where would I be now? I wouldn't have perspective. I wouldn't have anything to talk about, that's for sure. And so there's a certain brilliance to the process, the brilliance to the path that we're on. And I would say I'm someone that has quite a bit of trust in the mysteries of infinite intelligence. But even yesterday, it made me realize so much more how everything is working out exactly as it should. And yes, I knew that before yesterday. But this is what this journey is all about. I think the layers, getting so comfortable with that process. Like I always say, I don't think we ever get there. We go deeper and deeper and deeper. But I do feel like on this journey, there are there is a time when we stop striving for the goal to be transformed and we start getting really comfortable with the process. And I think that's where the peace is. I think that's where the happiness is. I've never been happier than I am now. I've never had peace. Of course, I don't have peace all the time, but I have peace on command. And I have, no matter what's going on, I'm able to center myself. There's such value in that. And I think that we'll always be going through these realizations and these levels that we're uncovering in ourselves. And I think that getting comfortable with that journey is what's really important. So I just wanted to share with you guys, like maybe you can think in your own life. I'm sure you've already been thinking about something some blocker that you're having a hard time shifting, a limiting belief that you just can't get your mind around. It's on the frills of your awareness maybe, but it hasn't come down into your mind yet. And I guess it's just, if I could just give a message about yesterday, it's just maybe there's divine timing, and if you haven't looked for it in all kinds of different angles, it will come. The intention is for you to be at your best self, is to be in peace and love and all the qualities of love, and to be of service. There's no, it has to come eventually, is what I think. It has to come eventually. Because the journey chooses us, I believe. We don't really choose the journey. It kind of sneaks up on us. And I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's all divine timing, and sometimes there's layers that have to go before that. I think that things come off in a certain order. There is a certain order to the transformation. And so I would say that I needed to pull away those other layers underneath it to reach the one I reached yesterday. Maybe I had to be strong enough to reach the one I reached yesterday, because it was very, very surprising and painful. The betrayal was unreal. The feeling of betrayal that I felt like I was right back 10 years ago before I did all the work. And by the way, when I'm doing my healings, I bring my mind right into the memory. So I speak in present tense from the past. Like, I am really angry, even though I hadn't been angry about it for a very long time, 7 to 10 years. So that was a really big eye-opener for me, and I wanted to share it with you guys to give as much value to you as possible, and maybe just make you think about some of the things you're up against, because some of these things are not fun. They can be health related, they can be relationship related. And so I think that every perspective helps. And it was just such an eye-opener. I am still processing the beauty of it all. And we'll see how it impacts my day-to-day life, because every single healing that I do has some impact on my life that I can see. It's like, oh, there we go, that's changing. I can feel the shift. I feel the shift with people. I feel the shift with abundance. I can feel the shift with all of it. So I'll give an update later as to what exactly unfolds with this. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of encouragement or a little bit of insight as to what might be happening for you if you're running into the same problem as I was for the last 7 years. And so I hope this helps. I'm still feeling airy, as you can tell, but I wanted to give you that, and that's it. Put it out in the world, and I hope it gives you some value. And that will be all for Tuesday's transformational tip. I hope that it serves you, and I will see you next week for another Tuesday's transformational tip. Thank you so much for being here. I am so grateful for all of you guys. I just wanted to say that I do this to serve. I do this from a place of inspiration, and I really hope that it reaches you and it is really helpful. So thank you so much for being here from the bottom of my heart, and you have a wonderful day. Bye.